Yes, people. Welcome back to GunnersHub. I've been looking forward to this one all week, as everybody knows that who supports me and who follows the Arsenal journey. We have a special guest today on Dan Potts from AFTV. Dan, I really appreciate you coming on. It's love every time. I really appreciate it, and it's an honour to have you on today. It's really an
Ah,
honour.
come on. Listen, pleasure's mine. Thank you for inviting me. Really happy to come on and talk all things Arsenal with you. So, yeah, look forward to the show. Make sure that you like and subscribe, people. And big up for having me on.
Yeah, love every time, Dan. Love every time. So, I mean, it's not really a good time for us Arsenal fans right now. Form hasn't been form hasn't been anywhere really. I mean, form's been terrible. Um, the talk is now Arsenal are in a crisis. I mean, would you agree? Are we in a crisis, or are we in a don't panic mode? What's your take on the whole aspect of the Arsenal at the minute?
I mean, we're close to a crisis considering we haven't won in the three games where we should have potentially won all three of them. I think when you look at the way we lost those games, it's really quite frustrating in different ways. West Ham, we had all the possession, didn't have enough clinical finishing. Then against Fulham, the whole thing was a shambles after we scored. It was as if Gareth Southgate was in charge. Once we went 1-0 up, we just sat back and let Fulham come on to us. And then with Liverpool, it was just about not finishing again. We could have been 2-3-0 up at 20 minutes in. And unfortunately, the way we're playing at the moment, you don't quite know what you're going to get with Arsenal. And I'm worrying because those are the days that I didn't enjoy watching Arsenal Football Club. And it seems like some of those performances have kind of reminded me of those times under Arsene Wenger, even under Unai Emery. And to be fair, under Mikel Arteta in his first couple of years where we were really struggling. And we've started to see some of the old habits come back from Mikel. And I'm not so sure that I've been enjoying that. Is it a crisis? Well, I think it will be if we lose against Crystal Palace and Forest, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
But I still feel we've got, the potential to turn this around. Whether we're going to do that or not, I have my big concerns at the moment. And there's been a few reasons as to why I felt that way this season, to be honest. And I'm not really changing my opinion as such until I look at that Arsenal team against Palace and start to see some changes, if you get me.
Absolutely, I absolutely agree. The Liverpool game, go just touching back on that. I think Arsenal played absolutely fantastic football. I thought, okay, I'm seeing something. They could have been 3-4-5-0 up, as you rightly said. But I feel like we're playing our best football in the Champions League. I mean, the league this is not really what I expected Arsenal to be looking like this season. I had high hopes for them to be going on and you know I thought they'll be maybe first, second at the minute, but fourth. That's a big drop off to considering how last year was. Um, I really had hopes, but I feel like as the days, weeks, games go away, I feel like my hope is gone a little bit. And especially if we got Palace tomorrow. If we lose, I think it's well and truly a crisis. It's over. I really do believe if we lose tomorrow, it's over. We'll be maybe in the title in the top four race, if you want to call it that, or maybe lower the way we're going on. Martinelli, Saka, there's a handful of players not up to scratch at the minute. They're not hitting the heights as they was, and it's very worrying, very worrying. I mean, is it the tactics? What is it down to? Are the players not up for it? Is it too much of a challenge for them? Last year, we fell short, yes, but they had a little feel of what it was like. That was what it was like to, if they was to go on and win it. But what do you think it is, Dan, that's going wrong? Is it? I just don't understand. I don't know what to put it down to, really.
Well, listen, there's a lot that lays on the manager's door. The manager's made a lot of changes when he didn't need to, and he's overthought a lot of what went wrong last season. I think it's a massive overreaction to the
Yeah.
way that we were playing last season. He's completely changed everything. He's changed the goalkeeping situation when he didn't really need to. If Ramsdale's going to be dropped, there needs to be a top quality goalkeeper coming in, and we didn't get that. We got someone who was as good, if not worse, than Ramsdale. In the Department of Defence, we allowed Kieran Tierney to go out on loan when Jurriën Timber got an injury, and I thought that was bizarre because now we're short at left back. In Department of Midfield, we've played Kai Havertz and tried to force him into a number 8 role where clearly he's not. And I think up top, we've left ourselves short by Saka and Jesus that don't have any cover because Reece Nelson isn't really trusted. And of course, Eddie Nketiah is loved by the manager but doesn't really perform on the pitch. So every single scenario leads to Mikel Arteta. What I will say is the change of this style was absolutely crazy, because Arsenal, for their faults last season, at least played some attractive football that everybody enjoyed watching. The attacking was the flair, the fluidity, the telepathy between the players. Actually, our transition was really good. And people might point to the injuries to Partey and the fact Timber's not played a game yet and the fact that we've not got Tomiyasu. But actually, when they all were playing parts, we still weren't really looking fluid. We played Partey at right back for the first 3 games of the season for no understanding of why. So
No.
perhaps things might change if he comes back and Timber comes back. But my biggest concern is the fact that we've looked very controlled and possession based, which has allowed Gabriel, Saliba and Rice to have a good season, but everybody else to have regressed. And I think you make good points about Saka, Martinelli, Odegaard, Jesus. The numbers aren't there this season. Is
Yeah.
that because they were overrated and are now rubbish, or is it because the style of play has affected them? I think it's the latter. I think it's nullified our attack. I think Saka and Martinelli probably 2 players that potentially need some rotation, but are just playing every game. And
That's
we
right.
haven't done enough in the summer transfer window, in my opinion. The squad is just nowhere near strong enough. We're playing the same players of last season. We're flinging on Eddie and Nelson to try and win us a game when, let's be real, Arteta doesn't actually trust some of these players. We've got Smith Rowe still sitting there, warming up the bench and not really getting used, and I don't know why. And then, of course, if there is anybody else coming on, it's the likes of Jorginho or Tomiyasu or Kivior or these players. And listen, I like Tomiyasu, but some of the others there, I'm wondering whether they actually deserve to be an Arsenal player. You know, Cedric and El Neni are still here. We've still got, Reece Nelson waiting for his chance. Smith Rowe can't get in the side. Vieira not doing enough. Havertz not doing enough. So when you deep it, we're still a little bit short. And I think that we're not like 9, 10 players short by any means. But I still think that 4 or 5 signings are needed in this Arsenal side, not to added to what we've got, to upgrade and replace on what we've got, because there's cover, but it's not adequate cover. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you
Yeah.
look at Reece Nelson, is that adequate for Saka? No. Eddie's
That's
not adequate for Jesus. I don't think we've got a Saliba replacement. I'm still questioning who else we've got other than Rice in our midfield that can actually do that Granit Xhaka role. So there's question marks for sure, man.
There is definitely question marks, and as you quite rightly said, the players need. I think cover for Saka is definitely needed. Saka, I think he's been drained. He's been absolutely drained, and other areas we do need to strengthen. But that's all what us Arsenal fans are saying at the minute: transfers, and we need more players. But I don't think Arsenal will get anybody. I think it will be summer. And if we do get a striker, I feel like it will be a panic buy. Not so much a panic buy, but it will just be, well, what's out there, what's available. But we need to be getting somebody of the standards of Arsenal, raising those levels. I feel like Arteta won't go out and buy a striker, and we'll just be relying on Jesus and Nketiah, but they're not going to win you the Premier League. And if we're talking about league, and if we're talking about competing with the likes of City, Nketiah and Jesus are just not going to do it. It's not enough. Jesus, okay, I don't think I'll put in the same sentence as Nketiah, because Jesus brings a lot more as a player. But Nketiah, Arteta should have done something about that. El Neni, as you said, Cedric, that then if you're not playing them, then why are they? You don't trust these players, like you rightly said. So something needs to be done. In your mind, Dan, what striker do you have? Ideal, realistic striker, do you think can come into Arsenal? Because I've been hearing about Benzema on loan and things like that. Who do you think's realistic that could come in now and do the job for Arsenal?
Well, if we've got no money for Ivan Toney, Alexander Isak, the players we all would love to see in an Arsenal shirt, then we have to be realistic about what we can afford. Benzema is one, for sure. A 6-month loan, 36, people might scoff at, but he's a massive upgrade on what we've got. He's a better clinical finisher than both Jesus and Eddie. He's definitely better to come on and rotate, if need be, due to his age, with Jesus than Eddie and Nketiah. So that would be a good signing. There's other options. Apparently, we're linked with the Getafe striker, Mario. I don't know much about him. And also Joshua Zirkzee over at Bologna. But I don't know enough about him. At 22, I think he is. He's like 6'4" from the Netherlands. Scored a few goals, but nothing amazing. So I don't know what money we've got. If we've got 20 or 30 million pounds, then it's not going to get an Ivan Toney. But if you was to throw in a player towards Feyenoord, could you get Jimenez? I'm not so sure. He's a player that I do like and like the look of. But I don't know what money they're gonna be asking for. It's very, very difficult when you haven't got much money to play with, and this window has been killed by FFP and profit and sustainability rules. So there's not a lot of teams doing much at the moment. It's really killed it. It's dead. And loans and a few free signings might be happening, but other than that, it doesn't look like there's much going on. Not just at Arsenal, but in general. I know Newcastle, West Ham, Forest, Everton, ourselves. Some getting done, some fine, some getting looked at. And I think that Arsenal will have that in the back of their minds that they can't be foolish here to say, do you know what? We're the ones banging on the drum to say Man City need to be punished. And if we're going to be doing similar, it's not going to be a good look. So for me, I think we have to be realistic. Benzema would probably require 3 to 350k a week, which is a lot of money. But we've paid it to Aubameyang and Ozil before. If it's for a 6-month loan, I'm taking it all day long for the fact of 6 months. It's going to cost you about £8-9 million if you total it all up for 6 months. So, yeah, it's going to be quite incredible if we don't buy anybody,
Yes.
because that for me just kept basically nailing the coffin that we're finishing trophyless and probably going to end up in the top 4. But
Over,
if we can push forward and actually add a couple of bits of quality to our squad, then maybe we could do something. But we're going to have to sell ones before we do anything else. I really don't think that we can buy somebody like the players we've just mentioned without selling a Smith Rowe, a Reece Nelson, Eddie Nketiah, perhaps somebody like a couple of the younger Deadwood players. Maybe we could get some of our players that are on loan signed up. Nuno Tavares, Charlie Patino, Lokonga, Cedric and El Neni are still here, not really needed. I'd rather just sell those for a couple of million and add that couple of million here and there to try and see what we've got. And if you get that sum in the end to hit the 40s or 50s, then perhaps you can go and do something in one of the positions in midfield or up top.
Yeah, I agree. I don't. All what you're saying, I agree with, Dan. I just don't think Arteta's going to do anything this window, especially hearing what he's been saying in the press conferences and when he's been asked questions. And it's tough to take because if nothing happens now and we don't get somebody or we don't sort our squad out, then it's over. Trophyless, like you said, and we're sitting with the same players. If we look at other teams' bench, they've got some impact. But when I look at our bench, I just feel like he's throwing them on in the 89th minute and expecting them to do something spectacular in 2 minutes and plus added time. It's not very realistic. And there's no consistency with these players coming off the bench, and we're just going to end up with poor results. Players not up to standards. And I heard Ian Wright saying the other day, I watched this little clip, the current players that we've got now need to up the standards. It's their duty as professionals to raise the levels. And sometimes a striker won't always fix things. And I agree with him. We can get a striker in and all the responsibility will be on their shoulders. But what is the players behind the strikers doing? Are they raising the levels? You need to be consistent. You need to be raising the levels. You need to be showing them why you are a professional footballer. And I just don't feel like we're seeing that at the minute. And it's quite, it's a shame really, because I thought we was going to go on and bounce off of last season, coming second. But I just don't see anything at the minute. It's quite, disheartening to see Arsenal where they are. They're a big club and, you touch on some good points. Whether we do anything or not is a different story. But something needs to
I mean, what Ian Wright was saying is right. If we get Benzema, that's a really good signing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But actually, we do need more, because if we get a hamstring to Rice and we have Rice and Partey out, we're stuck with Jorginho and El Neni, or Jorginho and Havertz together. And that was the Chelsea midfield like a few years ago that weren't good enough. So we have to be realistic about it. I also look at the problems at fullback now, because Tomiyasu's away, Timber's still injured, Zinchenko currently not fit, which means we've only got Ben White and Kivior as our only two fullbacks. And if one of them gets a knock, we're back to trying to play Cedric and one of the other youngsters. And it kind of leads on nicely, really, that who is actually coming through next in the youth academy, because we all hear about Kozia Dubry, we hear about Ethan and Ranieri, but actually, who's at the back? Have we got any fullbacks? Have we got any centre halves? Have we got any strikers? There must be some players in and amongst what we have in our youth academy that potentially could get more of a chance that we're, for some reason, not allowing moving forward. Now, I'm not saying that's what we need to win the league, but actually, if it's the case that we've got no money, we might have to actually utilise a couple of these in a few games to see us through, because at the moment we're shoving players in positions that aren't playing there. It's just a shame, man.
It is a shame. It is a shame. We do think Arteta should be looking at the youth academy and seeing what's what, because there may be a little answer there. There may be someone that a position that he can fill that he doesn't need to go into the market and get, and that's extra money in a different area. So we'll just have to see what goes on. Some good points you raised there, Dan. So, and I agree. I want to ask you, who's been your standout player so far?
I think this season, the one that really has stood out for me has been Declan Rice. Every single game I've seen him play, other than the last couple where everyone's been poor, he's been head and shoulders for me. And I think that the signing itself has given us a lot of strength on the pitch, but actually off the pitch, he's been phenomenal too. I think he's shown leadership qualities. I'd happily give him the armband if need be. He's great with the media, great with the fan base, been a fan favourite straight away. I think what he's done on the ball, driving forward, has impressed me a lot more than I thought. I knew he was good defensively, but his interceptions have been great. His tackling, his passing, the way he's drove us forward, and he's taken games by the scruff of the neck. And he's already got last-minute winners against both Luton and Man United, which has taken us to those 6 points. And I think what Declan Rice has definitely done is shut everybody up about the price tag, because no one's talking about this 105 million. They're all saying it's a great signing. And that's probably the biggest compliment you can give him, is that no one's gone, wow, 100 million. Havertz, on the other hand, has gone 65 million. Wow, what a waste. But Declan Rice, 40 million pounds more. Yeah, good signing. It's worked. So he definitely is the one for me. But the other two I will mention is Gabriel and Saliba, because the partnership for me complements each other. I think Saliba's taken his game to another level this season. And also Gabriel gets probably no credit to what he deserves. He gets so underrated and overlooked because Saliba's been the guy that everyone wants to talk about as one of the best in the world for his age. And I totally agree with that. But Gabriel's been a monster. Saliba's that ball playing, calm head. But Gabriel's an absolute warrior, and he'll go in hard. He'll get that ball. He'll intercept shit. He'll give it to players like Saliba, and he'll allow to keep it simple when need be. And the biggest thing that I'll say with Gabriel's improvement is he hasn't really got any of these bozo moments in him of late. You know, where he just goes in hard, or he gets sent off, or he's like rash. I think he's really calmed his game down, and I think he's recognised and seen himself as one of the leaders on out there at 25, 20, going on 26. He's not a player anymore that's a young kid, and he's worked on that, and you can see his maturity in his game. So they're the three for me, that triangle. When that triangle plays, Saliba, Gabriel, Rice, a lot of people are saying that's the reason why Arsenal being tipped this season, because they've got everything else around it. Unfortunately for us, we have got everything else around it, but we're not seeing the goals at the moment this season. So that's what we've got to change, man.
We have to change it, and I want to see changes starting from tomorrow. They come back from that break, and I hope they have worked hard and they just put their head down and try and get a turn of some results in. I agree. Mine was my stand-up player too is Rice. He's been absolutely phenomenal. We could say bargain, like exactly what you've just said. He's been absolutely phenomenal. What a buy. He's been great on and off the pitch, and his in-game, it's just incredible. Tomorrow's game against Palace, result, what do you think? Win, draw, loss? What do you think?
Yeah, it's going to be a hard one, this one. I actually don't think it's going to be a very high-scoring game.
No.
I'm going to go for a 1-0 to the Arsenal, because I just feel like it's a game that we have to get over the line, and we will somehow. But I just don't look at our form right now and see goals. And that's why I'm just going to go for 1-0. Now, it could be complete change. Arteta changes the system. We go for it. There's flair, fluidity, is tenacious, and we get a 3-4-0 win, because Palace are in the absolute mud, by the way. They're terrible. And I think they've got a couple of players out. There's rumours Elise and Eze might not make the game. So let's see what happens there. But when I look at it, if Arsenal don't win this game, it's going to be long for Mikel Arteta. I'll tell you that now. So, yeah, I'm going to go for 1-0 to the Arsenal tomorrow.
Yeah, like you said, it's going to be a tough game. Palace, they'll be missing a few key players, possibly, but it's still going to be a tough game. They won't come and just, they're going to come and try and get a result as well. And Arsenal need to try and bounce back from their recent form. So people, if you haven't already, like and subscribe to the channel. And I can't leave and end this podcast without saying, Dan, again, and big thank you. And it's just been an honor to have you on and, you know, show your support. People go and follow him. His app will be in the description as well, and the channel. Dan, I really appreciate it. I really do.
No, big up. Come on, listen, people, make sure you like and subscribe and support the channel. Make sure that you do that. Been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. Yeah, if you do want to come follow me at Dan Arsenal 87 or come over to see me on AFTV or Football's 12th Man podcast. So that's where you'll find me. Thanks so much for that, Mons. I really appreciate it, darling.
Right, man. Take care, yeah?
Yeah, big up.
Big up. Love.